Namaste students, I hope you remember what we learned in the previous module. Yes, exactly, the basic life processes to sustain life. Now let us go for a walk through this dense canopy. What do you feel? You feel very energetic. Can you tell me why? Yes, of course, you got a lot of fresh air, oxygen to breathe in. So we are going to see something more about plants. What is this process? Can you identify? Anybody from there? Yes, exactly, photosynthesis. So you can see the importance of light. Light falls on the leaf and there are some essential minerals and raw materials required which is put together to form a complex substance, and in that process oxygen is evolved. That is why you got a very great feel when you walk through that dense canopy. Now let us look deep into this biochemical process. This is just a diagrammatic representation showing all the components involved in this process. You know, plants take in carbon dioxide as you saw in the previous picture. Along with that, some minerals are absorbed from the solution, in a solution form from the soil, and in the process, you know, it uses sunlight, and chlorophyll is a pigment which actually traps the sunlight, and a product is formed which is carbohydrate. And again, once more I say, oxygen is an important gas which is evolved in this process. Now what is so important about photosynthesis or this particular form of nutrition? What is the exact term we call here? Autotrophic nutrition. What do you mean by autotrophic? If I am just splitting this term into two, auto means self, trophic means nutrition. So any organism which is capable of making its own food from raw materials, it is called as autotrophic nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition is a process where an organism prepares its own food from simple inorganic material like water, mineral salts, carbon dioxide and chlorophyll in the presence of sunlight. So what is autotrophic nutrition? Yeah, exactly. Okay. Now, where exactly is this taking place in a plant, and which organism, what other organisms apart from plants can carry out this mode of nutrition? Is it only plants which can carry out autotrophic nutrition, children? Are there any microbes which can do it, or any other organisms? Can we do this method of autotrophic nutrition? Can we trap the solar energy, animals, and convert into a complex organic substance? Definitely not. If your mother is cooking something in the kitchen, it is only assembling of certain things into the form of a food, okay, which you take in, a delicious food. But that is not the process of converting inorganic substance into a complex organic substance. So the organisms which possess chlorophyll or some pigment which is capable of trapping the solar energy can only carry out this process. Of course, along with plants, all the organisms in kingdom Plantae can do this. Along with that, there are some monoerans like bacteria and some protistans like Euglena which is also capable of doing this. Why? Only because they have these pigments which can trap the solar energy. So understand the importance of chlorophyll in photosynthesis. Now, if in a plant, where exactly is it taking place? We can call leaf as a food factory of plant. You studied this in your smaller classes. Food factory. A factory is a place where something is manufactured. So you can understand something is manufactured in leaf. What is that? It is a carbohydrate, and that is glucose. We'll see that, okay? Now, if you take a transverse section, a section of the leaf, you can find these many cells are found in this dorsiventral structure. It's just a flat structure without any lateral sides. We can't even imagine or assume these many cells are there, okay? So, a leaf is having an upper epidermis. As you know, you studied in 9th standard. Epidermis is a cell, a group of cells which are basically protective in nature. So it's protecting the leaf. There are two types of epidermis. An epidermis just like on the upper side of the leaf called as upper epidermis, and also there's a lower epidermis. So these two are protecting the cells which are found inside. Now what are the cells which are found inside? We are looking about the food factory, okay? So where is food exactly prepared? So these cells, group of cells found between upper epidermis and lower epidermis is called as mesophyll, okay? Mesophyll, that region is called as mesophyll. What exactly is mesophyll made up of? This is not something which you don't know. You studied all these cells in 9th standard. These are parenchyma cells, okay? So in this mesophyll region between the upper and lower epidermis, you can find these cells are parenchyma cells. These parenchyma cells in this leaf, which is actually a dicot leaf, you can find some cells towards the upper epidermis are compactly packed and they are called as palisade parenchyma, and some cells which are found towards the lower epidermis have some intercellular spaces, okay, like it is spongy, it's not very compact. Because of the presence of intercellular space, we call it as spongy parenchyma. So understand, between the upper and lower epidermis, mesophyll is found, and the mesophyll is divided into upper palisade parenchyma and near the lower epidermis spongy parenchyma. Now, in this region, where exactly is photosynthesis taking place? It can take place in both palisade as well as spongy parenchyma, okay? Now, in the palisade and spongy parenchyma, you could find few dotted structures which are nothing other than chloroplast. So in both palisade and spongy parenchyma, you can find there are several cell organelles called as chloroplast. So this is also a structure, cell organelle, which is studied in 9th standard. This cell organelle, chloroplast, has two membranes. It's double membrane bound cell organelle. Now what is found inside that? If you take a section of the chloroplast, you can find these many structures are found inside. So here you can find an outer membrane and inner membrane, protective in nature. Always these structures are protective in nature. Inner to that, you can find a region called as stroma. Stroma is nothing other than the interior space, okay? In the stroma, what are the structures found? You can find there are several structures called as granum. Granum is a membranous structure, and this granum is actually made up of thylakoids. So some thylakoids, which are membranous structures, are stacked up like a pile of coins. If you keep some coins one on top of the other, they exactly resembles granum, okay? So let us concentrate on two structures, granum and stroma. So granum and stroma, granum is made up of thylakoids. Stroma is the interior region. So actually photosynthesis is taking place inside the leaf, in the mesophyll, in the parenchyma cells, in cell organelles called as chloroplast. Now, once more, this is only for you to recollect what I taught. The process by which plants prepare food by using carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. I have highlighted all the basic raw materials or substrates required for photosynthesis. And what is the end product? The food prepared is a carbohydrate which is stored in the form of starch. So what is it prepared? In which form is it prepared? Because they are telling here it is stored in the form of starch. So in which form is it prepared? Okay, let us have a look at that. And oxygen is released in this process. This is one major event which is very much important. Okay, now the raw materials here, 6 CO2 plus 12 H2. It's a complete balanced chemical equation. Okay, in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. Chlorophyll, as I told, it's present in the plants inside the chloroplast. Okay, where is this chlorophyll found? Inside the chloroplast. And then the product is C6H12O6. What is this C6H12O6? It is not starch, but it is glucose. Please understand, it is glucose. It is a simple molecule. This simple molecule, as quickly as it is formed, is converted into a complex polysaccharide called as starch. Many glucose molecules are united together, bonded together, chemical bond, and it's formed into a structure called as starch. Starch is a form of carbohydrate which is reserved or stored. So plants store it in the form of starch, though they prepare in the form of glucose. How do we store carbohydrate? Can anybody say? Can you remember? Can you recollect from points we studied in some lower classes? Yes, exactly. We also store carbohydrate, but not in the form of starch. Animals store it in the form of glycogen. Okay, so remember, it stores in the form of glycogen. And water is also an end product, and oxygen. So oxygen, of course, why I am repeating the importance of oxygen, because it's really significant. It is a life-sustaining gas. You should know that. Okay. Yes, students. Now let us have a look at the process involved in photosynthesis. We saw the substrates and the products. Okay. Now, photosynthesis takes place in three main steps. They are absorption of light energy by chlorophyll. So please remember, the first step is absorption of light energy by chlorophyll. You should know which component in plant is exactly absorbing sunlight. Conversion of light energy into chemical energy. What is the chemical energy? Our food is a chemical energy. Okay. So solar energy is converted into chemical energy, And another basic event occurring here is splitting up of water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. This is another essential event in photosynthesis. In the equation, if you remember, if you recollect the equation written on the board, you saw water is one of the raw material. So you might think, what is the role of water? Okay, so this is the use of water. Water is not directly used up, rather it's split up into hydrogen and oxygen. We know that in the end product, oxygen is evolved. There is evolution of oxygen. So we know oxygen is not used up in photosynthesis. But hydrogen, what is the use of hydrogen? So once more, water molecules are split into hydrogen and oxygen. This phenomenon is called as photolysis. Photolysis of water. Something is split in the presence of sunlight. What is it something? Water is split in the presence of sunlight. Now, the third event is reduction of carbon dioxide by hydrogen to form carbohydrates. Here comes the importance of photolysis of water. In the product of photolysis of water, you saw hydrogen was there. Okay, this hydrogen is used for reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrate. Here is the actual production part taking place, okay, which we are looking for. We are looking for the production of food. So the production part is taking place here where carbon dioxide is reduced. A reduction process is taking place utilizing what? Utilizing hydrogen and carbohydrate is formed, okay. Now this entire process or these three steps which I explained now, we can just put into two broader categories. Okay, what are those two broader categories? We'll just have a look at it. The process of photosynthesis occurs in two stages: light dependent reaction or light reaction, because it's directly dependent on light. This reaction is driven by light. If light is not there for the plant, not available for the plant, light reaction will not take place. So we call this as light dependent reaction or light reaction. Now the second reaction or the second stage of photosynthesis is called as light independent reaction or dark reaction. This term dark reaction is actually a misnomer, which means that this reaction is not taking place in darkness. The only meaning of this is it's not directly dependent on light. That's why we call it as light independent reaction. But just understand, students, if the plant is not exposed to sunlight for quite a long time, first light reaction stops and slowly dark reaction also stops, which means that it requires light. It's not directly dependent on light. So based on your previous knowledge of the three steps of photosynthesis, you can tell me now, what is the importance of light for dark reaction to go on? Yes, hydrogen ions, or you can say hydrogen. From where is hydrogen made available to the plant? Yes, children, by photolysis of water. So for photolysis of water, what do you require? Sunlight, yes. So if sunlight is there, photolysis of water takes place, and the hydrogen which is produced there is used for reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrate. And reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrate is taking place in dark reaction. So this actually, you can just, the previous events, the three major steps in photosynthesis actually happens in two steps, light reaction and dark reaction. So where is this light reaction taking place? Where and dark reaction? Both takes place in chloroplast. Light reaction takes place in the grana part, and dark reaction takes place in the stroma. You can recollect the structure of chloroplast. Light reaction takes place in the grana and dark reaction takes place in the stroma. So understand, dark reaction doesn't mean that it takes place in darkness. The only thing is directly it's not dependent on the light, but it is dependent on the products of light reaction. Now just let us have a quick review of what could be the type of photosynthesis happening in desert plants. Is it the same for all the plants? Desert plants are living in an arid environment where water availability is too less, okay, temperature is high, and plants take in carbon dioxide through an opening in the epidermis called as stomata. So if plants are opening the stomata, through the same opening water loss also takes place, or you can say the two functions of stomata is gaseous exchange and transpiration. Transpiration is not a new word for you, it is loss of water in the form of vapor, okay. So if the desert plants are opening the stomata found on the epidermis and they are trying to take in carbon dioxide, there is a tendency for this plant to lose excess water. As it is, the plants face a deficiency of water. Water deficit is there, okay. So what do they try? They try to avoid opening the stomata when the temperature is very high. That is during daytime. So during daytime, they never open the stomata. Without opening the stomata, also plants can take in water because they are absorbing from the soil through the roots. So water availability is not a problem because they are taking it from the soil. Anytime daytime, anytime they can take in water. And desert plants have chlorophyll. Now let us see how do they do this process by avoiding the excess water loss. So what they do is during night time they open the stomata and take in carbon dioxide. You can see here during night time they open the stomata and take in carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide is converted into an intermediate product. In class 10th, you do not study the name of the product, but still for motivating you, you can just, if you want, you can remember that intermediate product is called as malic acid. It's an organic acid. You just study it as an intermediate product. They take in carbon dioxide and convert it into an intermediate product and store in their vacuole. Okay. And during daytime, what do they do? During daytime, again, they need not open stomata at all. So there is no problem of water loss. So just take in water through this root. Okay, they absorb as a solution and then they use this malic acid. They split carbon dioxide from the malic acid. They just remove there is a reaction where the carbon dioxide can be utilized. Carbon dioxide is now in the form of malic acid. From that, they utilize this carbon dioxide and carry out the process of photosynthesis. So this particular adaptation is found in desert plants where they avoid excess loss of water. Okay. This pathway, if you can, and if you want, you can recollect it as, we call it as CAM pathway. Okay, not necessary to write. You can just write crassulation acid metabolism. In higher classes, you'll study this in detail. Okay. Now, I told you stomata, but I didn't say anything about the structure of stomata. Okay. Now, you can just here see the structure of stomata. Here, the diagram shows open stomata and closed stomata. Now, you know stomata has to open. Why should it open? It has to open for respiratory gaseous exchange or after photosynthesis, just you can say it's gaseous exchange, and also for loss of water. Okay. Now, the first diagram shows a stoma open. Let us look at structure of the stomata. Here you can find these are the epidermal cells. Remember the diagram which I showed you, the anatomy of the leaf. So, epidermal cells are protective cells. Okay. And then inner to the epidermal cells, you can find there are two bean-shaped or kidney-shaped cells. So these cells are slightly different from the epidermal cell in its morphology or appearance. Now these cells, bean-shaped cells or kidney-shaped cells, are called as guard cells. You know what is the meaning of guard? Guard means it is guarding or protecting. So same is the function here also. It guards this opening called as stomatal pore. It guards the opening called as stomatal pore. So this opening is called as stomatal pore. This pore is guarded by or surrounded by two bean-shaped cells. These cells are called as guard cells. Okay. This is found in dicot. This shape is for dicot leaf. In monocot leaf, the guard cells are dumbbell shape, especially in grass family. Okay. It is dumbbell shape. I hope you know the shape of the dumbbell. Okay. And now here in this guard cells, you can find there are several chloroplasts and a nucleus like a normal cell. Now here this is a closed stoma. This is the opening. Here you can find the opening is very visible. It's a open stoma. This is a closed stoma. Now we'll just have a look into the mechanism of opening and closure of stomata. Now in this diagram, it's a closed stomata or closed stoma. Stoma is a singular form. Stomata is the plural form of that. Water moves from guard cells to the epidermal cells. I hope you remember outside this there were few epidermal cells. Why should a stoma close? A stoma should close in order to prevent the loss of water. So what happens here is water moves from guard cells to the epidermal cells. From the guard cells, water moves out to the epidermal cell. What happens when water is moving out? Something which is swollen will shrink. We know that. If water enters inside, a cell will become swollen. If water is going outside, it will shrink. Okay. So here, this is another term for a cell which is shrunk. It's called as flaccid. Okay. A shrunk cell, we call it as flaccid. So water from a swollen cell is moving out to the epidermal cell. When water moves out, the cell shrink and the stoma, that opening, the walls come closer. The walls come closer and the opening is no more visible or stoma closed. Simple mechanism, you can just remember in the form of a mind map. Water moves from guard cells to epidermal cells. Guard cells become flaccid or shrink. Stroma closes. 3 steps you can remember. That's it. Okay. Come on, children. Now let us have a look at the mechanism of opening of stomata. Water moves from epidermal cells to guard cells. From the epidermal cells, water moves into the guard cells. You know, when water enters inside a cell, the cell becomes turgid or it becomes swollen. So the guard cells become turgid. When it becomes turgid or swollen, automatically the inner walls are pulled apart, which means the stroma is open. So let us have a look. Water moves from epidermal cells to guard cells. Guard cells become turgid and stroma opens. I hope you understood the mechanism of opening and closure of stomata. Now it is question time for you. I'm just giving you a few questions. You have to read the lesson thoroughly, understand all the concepts which I taught, and then only you should attempt these questions. What are the major events occurring during photosynthesis? Of course, you must be able to recollect now. Draw a neat label diagram of open and closed stomata. Write the equation for photosynthesis. You must adhere a balanced equation and remember what are the substrates and products and what you are supposed to write above the arrow, below the arrow. Write in the same format. Okay. Explain the mechanism involved in opening and closure of stomata. Let's see.